Hi, this is Anna Imagination with the Ethical Asshole, and I am your host, the Salty Bitch. It's been a while since I've recorded on Zoom to upload onto YouTube. Usually I just go live on YouTube, but on this one I wanted my whiteboards. So I will never do that again. It had been a very long time for me to upload. I spent the whole day uploading all of my backlog. Where is the whiteboard? They changed everything, so I have to relearn everything since I've done this. Notes, whiteboards, woohoo, new whiteboard. Okay, great. All right, so here is the whiteboard. And what we are talking about today is basically the societal bullshit that be. Woohoo, this is part of the societal puberty. So this is what this is. This is the societal puberty. And that is what we are doing. This is your societal puberty. The subgenre. It's there you go. So this is what we're doing today. And basically, this is our equilibrium bar. Oh, that's convenient. Perfect. Okay. And this is basically representative of our triangulation, which is going to be in the dead center. La 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 la. Perfect. Okay. So there we have. And then we have, of course, the two extremes. That's going to be our left wing. You know where I'm going with this. No, that's not where I want to go with that. Then we got our right wing. These are our extremists. Left wing. And then we have our right wing. Now, this is one of the things that we have happening, which we're all very familiar with. Now, okay, this is very interesting. I did not know this was a possibility. So let's just, okay. So this is basically what we have here. Is this right here is that center equilibrium balance. This is where we want things to be. So this is black thinking. I'm not going to get into this. Let's call it black and white thinking. Extreme. And we're going to due to trauma. And this is how these people were abused. And then over here, we have how these people were abused. And this is what we refer to as self-regulation. Now, in order to pull this off, you need ethics. And the ethics are what will regulate you. I need to clarify the 12 ethics. Okay? And that's what's going to self-regulate you. La, 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 la. And then you're going to need your sense of self. Your sense of self. And really what you're also going to get from this is confidence, security, and self-esteem. And this all comes from your power of choice. And then over here, you get your real solid defense system. And this is where your self-preservation. So this is what's going on. This is what we're all not seeing. So people who are in this, but there's more than this. Now, I'm not going to sit down and break down left versus right. So I'm just going to throw some stuff up here. And these are just other examples of extremes. These are not saying that man is left wing, woman is right wing. That is not what this is saying. These are just verses. This is very much the verses. And what this is the game. And another one that you've got here is you've got the race, you've got the racial wars, and you also have, yeah, so race versus race. And then you also have conformists and woke. Okay, just a minute. That I cannot have. That one does grate on me. There we go. Like that one does grate on me. All right, and then we also do have poor versus wealthy. What else do we have? What else do we all fight about? All right, well, I'm just going to go ahead and leave here. You get the idea. Basically, that is what this is these are all the things, and this is it. It's very much a competition. It's a versus. It's a one or the other. And these are all back and forth. Now, it doesn't mean that they're right or wrong. That's not what we're talking about at all. Because right and wrong is discussing ethics. And that's what all of these things are talking about is ethics. Which, by the way, is what all of this is about, is the ethic war. It's an ethical war. And that's really what's going on that no one is actually giving a name to, is the ethic war. So what's going on is people don't understand ethics. And what these people are doing over here is they are fighting over what is good and what is bad. And the problem is they don't have any kind of an education on ethics. So they don't know what is good or bad. They believe that they are right. These people over here believe that they are right. But here's the problem with ethics. And it's not really a problem with ethics. It's a problem with not being educated about ethics, is ethics have 12 stages to them, 12 stages. And these stages of growth means that we will be in different stages at different times because we are not ethically, well, I should say societally regulated. Because our education done fucked up. And that's what's going on. So what is now going on is you've got a lot of trauma people doing trauma responses, responding back and forth with each other. And what you really want is right here. You want to be self-regulated here. Now, there's going to be symptoms when you are self-regulated. The first one is calm, no anger, and self-control. So those are going to be some of the symptoms that you see right away. You're going to see no anger. You're going to see self-control. You're going to see calm. When anger does occur, it is when the anger equals ethical attack. Anger equals self-preservation. Anger equals inability. Well, let's say belief. Not even. It's a lack of self-preservation. So if you feel anger, this is really what's going on. Your body, your mind is telling you you need to take action and do something, but you're not doing it. You are not doing it at all, which is why you're angry. And you should be using anger to say, why am I angry? And anger has stages to it. So we're going to go ahead and go over those stages right now. The stages of anger. The stages of anger. The stages of anger. Now, I talk about the stages of anger a lot, but this one's going to be different. I really shouldn't call it the stages of anger because it makes it sound like there's something else here, but it's, so I need to call it something else, but I'll figure that out in a minute. It's basically you have to name, let's call it the stages of diffusing or anger management. This is how you manage your anger. No, actually, it's going to be the stages of change. That's what we want. Stages of change. because the stages of anger are something different. So let's actually go through both. So the stages of anger, and this is what I talk about a lot, the stages of anger. There are 3 stages of anger, maybe 4. I have to go back through them here in just a minute. I'll do that. Anger. Okay. So the first stage of anger is going to be violence. And we see that between the first and the 4th ethic. And then the second stage is going to be talking. And that is between the 4th and 6th ethic. And then the third stage of anger is action. And that is between the 6th ethic and up. And this is where really the 4th stage of anger is prevention. And that is, we're going to say 6, no, you don't do, yeah, no, 6th ethic plus. So there you go. These are the stages of anger. So the stages of change look like this. You want to name the problem so you know what you are dealing with. The next thing you want to do is ask the question, how to prevent it. Now, before I go further, I want to clarify that this is a scientific method. So I'm going to lay this out, and then after a few minutes, it's going to look exactly like scientific method. It is scientific method. So you have the name of the problem, so you know what you're dealing with. This is actually the education part. This is the education or the study the situation. Or we call this assessment. And then you have naming of the problem. And this is where a lot of people get stuck. They don't know that this is what they're doing. And as a result, they end up spending a whole lot of time talking and venting without really knowing what they're dealing with. And then it's how do you prevent it? So this is where you go back to the 4th ethic and you amend your boundaries. And then you want to make a plan for prevention, which is the how will you solve this issue from repeating. You also want to look at what you can do in the future to empower yourself. So you also want to do self-empowerment. There you go. And that's it right there. Those are your scientific method, and those are your stages of anger. So where a lot of people get stuck is they end up, when they are abused, they end up right here associating anger with violence. And they don't understand that there's a whole other world happening here, especially if they are stuck in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th ethic. So if you were abused in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th ethic, if you have borderline personality disorder, if you are a 1st ethical perspective, if you struggle with addiction, you are probably going to associate violence with anger, and that's not at all true. And the 6th ethic is really renowned for talking through the problems, which is a 4th, 5th, and 6th perspective a solution. But that's actually not what you should be doing at all with your anger. And the reason why, if you look at this, that the problem, naming the problem so you know what you are dealing with, is actually aligned with talking, which is the 4th stage of scientific method. They're aligned. And what you're doing when you're going through the 12 stages of the ethics is you are going through scientific method. They are the same thing. They are the exact same thing. So as you go through scientific method with the 12 ethics, you are going to hit scientific methods trial and error. When you take action, this is actually when you are making a plan for prevention and how will you solve the issue from repeating. And when you look over at the 5th stage, which is prevention, you are now looking at self-empowerment. So you can see how the stages of anger actually align with the stages of change. And if you are somebody who is walking through or evolving through these ethics, you are actually evolving through your stages of scientific method. It's really fucking cool. So naming the problem is a huge part of this. And I'm going to go ahead now, and as an example, I'm going to reverse engineer one of my problems. And one of my problems that I run into a lot that makes me very, very angry. And we're going to go ahead and use this as an example of solution. Is other people labeling genius as insane or crazy. But it's not other people. It's ignorant or unintelligent people labeling genius as insane or crazy. And they have the if-then clause. If I don't understand them, then they must be crazy. This is a logical fallacy because it's so illogical. It's not true because if you don't understand something, then you may not be educated enough. Or, and we're going to put here false, because if you don't understand them, then you may not be educated enough. Or if you don't understand them, then you may not speak their language. Or if you don't understand them, then you may not be listening. So as you can see, there are a number of reasons why somebody could be not understanding something, which means the premise, if I don't understand them, then they must be crazy, is false, which is why ignorant or unintelligent people labeling genius as insane or crazy is the assumption that, oh, I couldn't possibly have a lack of knowledge, or I couldn't possibly know less than this person, therefore they must be crazy. It literally is the default setting that the person who says you're crazy must have all the knowledge in the world. Therefore, that person is insane because they can't possibly know more than I do, which is why the concept of being called crazy or insane is really just ridiculous. And the problem with the concept of insane or language is it specifically addresses a person's logic while disregarding their language skills. So in most cases, and I'm going to dare say all cases, an accuser of insanity fails to consider, in most cases or all cases, an accuser of insanity fails to consider the genius's language skills. While also assuming they, the accuser, could not possibly know less than the accused, than the genius. There you go. So addresses a person's logic while disregarding their language skills. So in most cases, an accuser of insanity fails to consider the genius's language skills while also assuming that they, the accuser, could not possibly know less than the genius. Which is really, this truly is, and that presents a whole nother catch-22 fallacy. This is the genius, well, I guess it would be called the insanity paradox. This is exactly it. It is the insanity paradox. Thus, the label insane is a reflection on the accuser lack of intelligence. I don't like to use the word intelligence, education, and not the accused. So the insanity, and this really does create the insanity paradox. So now you have an ignorant or an unintelligent person. Oh, I hate the word unintelligent. Let's change that to uneducated. There we go. So ignorant or uneducated person labeling genius as insane or crazy. If I don't understand them, then they must be crazy. Because if you don't understand them, then they may not be educated enough. Or if you don't understand them, then you may not speak their language. Or if you don't understand them, then you may not be listening. Addresses a person's logic. Let me see here. This accusation, and it's a false accusation. It's always a false accusation. Addresses a person's logic while disregarding their language skills. In most cases, an accuser of insanity fails to consider the genius's language skills while assuming they, the accuser, could not possibly know less than the genius. This is the insanity paradox. Thus, the label insane is a reflection on the accuser's lack of education and not the accused. Now, this is where this is the situation we're really dealing with. This is the situation. So there we go. The situation. I would love to do a time check. Do a time check right now. Take a look at how long this video is and mark it, because that is how long it took us to break down this argument without any venting, complaining, nothing. It's done. We analyzed it. We are complete. So mark the time. And that is literally how long it should take a person on average to name or identify the problem. Now, if you are spending more time than said time, how I'm venting, this is exactly this is why this is the problem. Is because so many people spend all of that time. I don't have a clock, so I can't look at the clock to just, so I'm going to assume it's been 15 minutes. So it took me 15 minutes to break it down in a logical format. This is called a proof. To lay out the proof to show you the order of operations of the logical sequence as to why this is not sound. This is not a sound argument. This is absolutely not a sound argument. So bottom line is this: accusing someone of insanity is not a sound argument because, and here's the proof. So there it is. It's official. Accusing someone of insanity is not a sound argument because, and there it is. So let's assume it took us 15 minutes to do all of that. Now, if you were to formulate every one of your arguments or sequences in this format, it should only take you approximately 15 minutes to identify a problem. Now, if you are spending 2-3 hours constantly going back over the same situation, it's because you are not adequately utilizing logic to identify a situation. It shouldn't take you more than 15 minutes. If it is taking you longer than 15 minutes to break down a formal argument to figure out what the problem is, you've got some serious education to be doing in the world of logic so that you can do this effectively in 15 minutes or less. If it's taking you longer than 15 minutes, then you've got a serious logical sequencing problem. So there's your communication problem, and you're going to have a logical sequencing problem. And a lot of people talk about communication problem. And the problem with the accusation of insane is it bypasses both of these and immediately just, oh, well, you're insane. And it dismisses the fact that you have a communication problem and or a logical sequencing problem. Logical sequencing problem is insanity. If you do not have a logical sequencing under control, then you do have a problem with sanity, because this is your grounding foundation of reality. Study ontology, this is what you find, which means you either have a communication problem or you have a logical sequencing problem. But the accusation of calling you insane bypasses the fact that the ignorant or uneducated person couldn't possibly understand, because the problem is clearly you and not them, rather than taking into consideration the fact that you just might have a sequencing problem and or a communication problem. In most cases, you have a communication problem, not a logical sequencing problem. If you had a logical, stable foundation and also the ability to communicate and articulate your logic clearly, you could bypass all of this confusion and simply state what you mean, and they would understand you, which means, again, you do not have a logical sequencing problem. You have a communication error. So it's not that you're insane. Your communication just sucks. And that's the difference. But this is it right here. The ignorant or uneducated person is so illogical that they can't even, actually, they are so uneducated that they can't even tell the difference between a logical foundation versus a communication error, which makes the accuser of insanity the most stupid person of all. Now, to solve this, well, you could literally just say that to them. Clearly, you are not intelligent enough to assume whether or not somebody is a genius and or not, because you can't even tell the difference between a logical sound argument and or a communication error. And that's literally how you would argue with that, is accusing someone of insanity is not a sound argument. Because, so now let's step over into the world of the ethics. And this is where we are going to pull out the ethics and take a look. Now, let's go ahead and do that now, because that's the next stage of this, is the ethics. So here's the question that needs to be asked. When an ignorant accuser is too uneducated to tell the difference between logical sanity versus communication error, which ethics are being violated and or are required for solution? So this really is the next stage in all of this. And now, just for a fresher, we're going to go ahead and write these all up. We have self-nourishment. Now, this is going to go one of two ways. There is the accuser violating, and there's also the accused making sure that they are also aligned with all these. So you have self-nourishment. Let's go ahead and just do this here. Bullets. Okay. And then you have self-authority, self-regulation, self-law, accountability, equal footing, listen, learn, assert, talk. And we want to make sure under equal footing we get in there self-value. Okay. And we want to do assert voice. And then for the 9th, we want to do verbal regulation. For the 10th, emotional fluidity, logical navigation. And then for the 12th, we want energy regulation. Okay, and that's it. All right, so there we go. All right, so this is side of the abuser. This is the side of the accuser. And so the abuser. And then we have the accused. All right, so we're going to go ahead. I did an article. I was reading an article this morning on Guthrie, I believe his name was, Alexander Guthrie. And the writer of the article accused Guthrie of insanity, which is where I got really upset because I projected my own experience of Guthrie onto this. Here he was, a genius with metaphysics, and you had the abuser in this case is an ignorant, fourth perspective comprehension gap, and he was an outsider. And he decided to accuse this metaphysical genius on insanity because he was that ignorant, fourth perspective comprehension gap, and an outsider. So in this case, it's Guthrie, and he is the accused being told that he is insane, even though he was a genius. And it was because of the abuse of being called insane that he decided to go off and be a hermit, because you can only hear that so many times before you just want to be isolated. So now you're going to look at the abuser. So of course, that's how I projected that, because I related to it too well, and then I got really angry. So now here we are with me practicing this beautiful how to prevent it, make a plan for prevention, and now self-empowerment. So now we've named the problem. That was the first slide. That was page 3. This is naming the problem. And now we are in the how to prevent it and make a plan. So that's what we're doing here. So when we are now looking at the abuser, which of these did he violate? So we want to look at which of the ethics did the abuser violate when he accused, well, I can tell you right now, it's the 7th. He absolutely did this because he did not have an open mind. He also viewed himself as being higher of and or better than Goldthwait, because he felt that he was, if you don't understand them, then they must be crazy, because ignorant or uneducated people labeling genius as insane or crazy assumes that the accuser absolutely could not possibly know less than Goldthwait. So he definitely had equal footing problems. He violated the listening and the learning voice. He was not self-nourishing. He was not self-authority. I'm just going to leave it there. Just equal footing and listening, learning. If he had done it properly, he would have said, this man was a genius and here's all the information. He would have learned first. But instead of learning first, he wrote an article about this man is a genius. And he played that either or aspect, but there is no either or. It's, this is a man who was mistaken as a genius, but he didn't say that. It's the way he worded it. So now let's look over at the accused. The accused, and this is where I'm going to put myself here because I cannot speak for Goldthwait, but I can speak for myself. So what ethics did I violate when other people did this to me? Well, the first thing I did was I failed to do my own self-law. If I had done that, I would have been fine. I'm doing the accountability right now. Yay! It's equal footing. That's a really interesting question. Equal footing. See, I feel defensive. I feel like I'm attacked. I feel attacked. I feel like, no, they did attack. I see this is what they do, is they attack my genius, my intelligence. They attack my sanity. That's what they do. Oh, this is what they're attacking. That's the problem. They are accusing me of this right here. Oh, that's going to be a big problem for me. Oh, no, 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 no. Yep, that is going to hit me hard. That is going to hit me hard. I don't take kindly to being told that I'm illogical. Yeah, that would be it right there. That's what he violated in me. That is exactly when somebody accuses you of being insane or crazy, they are accusing you of violating the 11th ethic. They are accusing you of failing to do logical navigation. Oh, that says a lot. That explains everything about this. And as a result, they take that away. And now this is like, I'm starting to unweave now. I'll explain what's going on. So basically, when you are accused of being insane, you lose voice. That's what's going on with your self-authority. And you also lose this. You cannot speak. So they take away voice. They take away, and I need to clarify your power of voice. And then they take this away because they devalue you. So they put you down. Oh, this is how they're working. You listen, you learn. You cannot. This has been, what did I just do? Can we undo that? How do I undo that? Oh, it's just like zooming in. I don't want that much. There we go. That was interesting. So here you go, is you cannot do verbal regulation because they took out your ability to assert your own voice. So that's been compromised. You cannot do energy regulation because they took out your logical navigation. I didn't have a problem being accountable, but I had to defend myself, but I couldn't defend myself because I didn't have the self-authority. Self-authority, by the way, is your ability to defend yourself. That's your defense. Also, here's more of your defense. And because they take out the second ethic, you can't do the third ethic because you need the second ethic to do the third ethic because that's a dependent. So this is a dependent. I mean, technically, they're all on second. And this is a dependent on eighth. And this is a dependent on 11th. So there you go. If someone accuses you of being insane, they are going after your second, third, fourth, sixth, eighth, ninth, 11th, and 12th ethic. And if they call you dramatic, they're also going after your 10th. So insanity covers all of that. Dramatic also adds in the 10th. So that is why, this is the why we get angry when someone calls us ignorant or insane. This is why we are angry when we are accused of insanity. This is why. Why is that not? There you go. Now, self-law, accountability, assert voice. Okay, they also violated their ability to assert voice. They failed that one. And they failed that one. They're not being logical. They cannot regulate that. Okay, so all right, so now you can take a look. The abuser argued the equal footing, this is anyone who would accuse somebody. This is anyone who's an accuser. They are violating the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 11th, and 12th. So this is a great example. So I'm going to come down here and I want to show you what's going on, because this is really what's going on. So the abuser violated the following ethics. They violated 6, 7, 8, 9, 11, and 12. Those are the ethics they violated. And the same person violated my 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 9, 11, and 12. So the abuser, by accusing someone of being insane, violated the 6, 7, 8, 9, 11, 12th ethic, and they also violated my 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 6th, 8th, 9th, 11th, 12th ethic. Yeah, I'm going to be angry. I'm absolutely going to be angry. This is why we get angry. This is really what's going on, is these are the 12 things that have been violated when we are abused. So, and this is just by being called or accused of being insane. So the anger is now up there because I'm going, oh, that's still going on, then it could happen to me again and or still. So that's really what it is my imagination. But the problem is I've seen it. I've lived at this. I've been 40 years in that life. So now I'm looking at the accusation coming back and I'm going, wow, this was a quiet hermit man. And he kept to himself and they did this. Now here I am, not quiet. I'm loud. I'm out there. I'm controversial. And they are still making these accusations. So now I'm going, is this what I can expect? Yes, this is absolutely what I can expect. I expect people to attack me and call me insane. I expect this because this is the track record and this is what we've seen. This is actually why I am so gung-ho about logic, math, physics. So I can say, here's the science, prove it, here it is. If you want to come back at me, please present me with a logical argument. Now, I have a lot of people. My former best friend was one of these persons who literally attacked the logic. Not logically, but because she couldn't present a logical argument. So she would just lash out at the logic because she was violating the 11th ethic. And that's why I severed that relationship and said, no, because you're not allowed to abuse me with logic, like I do not tolerate or allow logic abuse. This is logic abuse. That's what's going on here. When you are accused of being insane or crazy, you are experiencing logic abuse. They are literally attacking your logical sense of comprehension, which is reality. Study ontology, that's what you find out. And then suddenly you're going, wow. So when somebody accuses your insanity, they are targeting your perception directly and your ability to perceive reality. That is the most egregious self-abomination there possibly is, because you take that away and you lose relativity and you lose self. You lose self and you lose all ability to locate who you are, where you are, what you are, and your entire self breaks down. Now, what do I do? Well, the best thing would be is to boundary. That would be a boundary setting. So the solution to this would be a silent walk away, don't talk to them, complete shutdown, because they are falling into the world of the illogic, which is my cardinal rule. So I'm going to go ahead, close this down. And this is a true cardinal rule of myself. When just a moment, I need to focus. Export, PDF, export. I do not multitask. Multitasking is great for subconscious minds, really toxic. Okay, really toxic for the material plane. We do not at all multitask. So mental diversification is fantastic when you multitask inside the abstract, but when you are outside of the abstract, you really need to be not multitasking. So so here's the solution. The solution literally is not saying a word, identifying that I am dealing with someone who is so illogical that they literally believe that they could not possibly be outsmarted by anybody. And also they are so ignorant that they can't even tell the difference between logical sense and sequence versus a communication error. So I don't talk to those people because they are so void of reasoning, they cannot be reasoned with. I do not reason with the unreasonable. This is an Anna rule that Anna has, is Anna does not reason with the unreasonable. Reason with the unreasonable. And this, I cannot tell you how well, take this rule for yourself. I do not reason with the unreasonable. And this is why, is because if you try and reason with the unreasonable, there are no laws of reason being applied with which you can reason now with the unreasonable. So why are you trying to reason with the unreasonable? They have violated the laws of reason. So when I identify that somebody is part of the unreasonable, game over. Game over. That's like going, play a game with me, but you're a cheater. So, okay, I'll play a game with you. I don't play games with cheaters. I don't reason with the unreasonable. Those are like the two rules that I have. I do not play games with cheaters. And that's it. Do you play games with cheaters? Well, I don't reason with the unreasonable. I don't. So the moment somebody uses the word insane or logical, boom, well, you are officially now insane because, or you are officially without logic, because they are using a logical fallacy that is so abysmal in the sense of, well, the logical argument is right there, that their entire premise, it's not a sound argument. It is not a sound argument. It's not a sound argument because it's built on the entire premise that no one could possibly know more than me. While they are not even capable of identifying the difference between logical sequencing and or communication skills. No, we don't do that. So that's it right there. I just no. So if somebody drops the accusation, you're crazy, they're insane. Oh no, we're done here. No. Immediate. Game over. Game over. I don't reason with the unreasonable. No, I don't do that. As soon as somebody says the words they're insane or they're crazy, game over. Do not reason with them because they're already there's nothing there that you can use to start building a sequence that'll even begin to make logical sense because they're not playing by the logic rules. And that's really it. There's the logical sequence, and then there's the rules. There's the logic rules. And this is what people don't know. And this is really, we need to have a long sit down talk about this. This is really logic 101. If you do not know the logic rules, you should not be playing the game. And if you don't know the logic rules, and this is it right here, is the logic rules are nature. It's physics. It's literally, it's physics. It's not physics. It's the predecessor to physics. These logic rules are the groundwork for mathematics and physics. Like, would you try to count 1 + 1 with somebody who's not even using mathematical law? Like, would you try and do physics with someone who says, you know what, I'm going to throw all the laws of physics out? Well, then what are the rules of the game? They literally throw out the rules of the game. And the problem is, our entire breathing, our life, our everything that we are, focuses and is centered around the sequence of logic, whether or not you know about them. Which is why when people are confronted by a logic, they do this. I'm confused. You literally get confusion if you don't have the laws of logic. I'm going to write that down. Confusion is the consequence if you do not have logic rules. As soon as you have a violation of logic rules, you're going to get confusion. That's what confusion is, a violation of the logic rules. You know how when you're playing a game and you feel justice pissing you off because it's not fair? Well, confusion is logic rules being violated. Justice, and that's not fair, is your karma's unbalanced. Confusion is you're not playing by the logic rules. When you feel confused in math class, your math teacher has broken the logic rules. You should not be teaching mathematics if your children are getting confused in a class, because it's a teacher's responsibility to check the sequence and the preparedness of every student before you open your mouth to teach them. Which means if you are confused in a classroom, you have a bad teacher. Every time. If you are reading a book and you get confused, the author has failed. If you are in a classroom and the teacher is confused, the teacher has failed. It's that simple. There are logic rules. Now, people don't know about 96% of the population don't know about these rules, because if you did, then your genius would not be suppressed. And according to neuroscience, 96% of us have suppressed genius, which means 96% of us have a violated logic rule inside of us. And because you don't know about the violation of logic rules, you don't know to live by them, which is why you have a mental illness, which is why your genius is suppressed. So now we're talking about a whole nother conversation. If you are confused, if you have brain fog, that is advanced stage 3 of confusion. It's really serious. It really, really is serious, because that's when you start progressing down the mental health road. And as you cure yourself, as you heal, it will reverse it. And it's all because of the logic rules. So if you don't know the logic rules, you don't know the logic rules. How can you not know the logic rules? So the next, one of the things I'm going to be covering are the logic rules and breaking them down so you understand the sequence of reasoning. And if somebody does not follow the logic rules, they're going to be playing by their own rules. Now, I have to explain, because this is a great example. My toxic former friend, she had a severe phobia of logic. Severe phobia of logic. I don't know what was going on with her. I don't care. I don't try and reason the unreasonable. I don't do that. But she did have a severe hatred, loathing, and aversion to logic, to the point where she weaponized it and was aggressive about it. And it was our second argument when I had put a massive boundary in place to say, no, this is the boundary, you don't violate it. And she wanted me to participate in a logical, formal argument with her without her obeying any of the logic rules. And I refused. I said, no, you can have a discussion with me. We are not going to do character assassination. She got angry with me. She felt that she was allowed to slander me. And I said, no, that's a boundary. You're not allowed to attack me. You're not allowed to scream at me. That's abusive. So I literally put a boundary in saying, you're not allowed to abuse me. She got angry because I would not allow her God, this is a true story. She got angry because I would not allow her to abuse me. And then she's like, why do we always have to do things your way? It's a boundary and you're not allowed to abuse me. If you want to have a discussion with me, it's going to be a logical, calm, healthy conversation, or I'm not participating. And she's like, why do we always have to do this your way? These are not my way. This is called logical formal argument and debate. These are the rules of logic. You can look at them up. These are Plato's rules and Socrates' rules. This is human conversation rules. And the problem is, if you strip away these rules, that's when people scream. That's when people slander. That's when people abuse. That's when you get into heated political debates. That's when people become violent. And when you put these logical boundaries in place to say, no, you're not allowed to treat me like shit. This is not an argument if you're attacking my character, because we're not talking about X. You are just throwing tomatoes in my face. And I'm not allowing you to throw tomatoes in my face. We're going to have a calm, quiet, logical discussion, or I'm not participating because I have self-preservation. Like I said, former really toxic friend, not a friend. And when you start to understand that you have your logic rules, and it's because you don't know about them that abusers abuse you so much. Because if you knew about them, you would, boy, would you defend these rules. Like, no, these are the perimeters in which we're having a conversation. And the more a person matures ethically, the more they gravitate toward this state of mind of, no, we're going to sit down and have a calm, quiet conversation, or we're not going to talk at all. And when the conversation gets heated, that's when people cool down and say, you know what, we need to take a step away and calm this down. And this is why. But if you don't even know that there are logical rules, and now you're being exposed to an abuser, this is where everything goes wrong, is now you are being subjected to an abuser who is attacking and violating the logical laws and the logical rules. It is equivalent to you being forced to play a game against your consent while they're cheating. Your justice is going to flare up like, what the hell? That's not fair because they're cheating. They're violating a value, not just an ethic, a value, a cardinal value, the second cardinal value. Justice is being violated. And when you are working with logical code, they are violating one of the cardinal laws. That's really what's going on, is they are violating a cardinal law when they are trying to participate with you in a way that's outside of those logical laws. And as a result, you're getting confused and you're taking on that violation. And then people get angry and they don't understand why, because you were never educated in logical law. And then you've got people saying, well, you're insane coming along. No, I'm not insane. That is not a sound argument. And you are officially working with unreason. So we're done here. No. And that's a total shutdown, disconnect, walk away. Walk away. And that is why, because they are not reasonable. They've deliberately broken the law of logic, and now they're standing outside the law of logic, and now, well, nothing makes sense. It's Wonderland. It's like trying to make sense of the Mad Hatter. You can't win an argument with someone who's not participating in the rules of argument. The problem is you were never educated that there are laws of argument and formal discussion, but your intuition is hardwired to follow them. Just like your intuition is hardwired to follow justice. And that's why there's so much problem right now, is because people are not educated about these common sense laws that your intuition is picking up on. So thank you so much. And may the kindest of words always find you.